Oh my God.
All right. So Solomon, it looks like he forgot he had wine, beer, spirit of pop culture.
No. How dare you? I've got it. It's all written down. Good to go.
All right. Are you gonna get our intro written there?
Yeah, I thought I did. You don't see it?
Let me see.
Hit the save button. Hit the check mark.
There's no save button in Google Docs.
I don't.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. There it is.
Okay.
All right. I see it now. All right. Let me
save.
Fire up the tubes. Oh, damn. Dracena's. Dave's in there. All right.
So we went from 4 to 6.
Yeah. Okay. We are live.
We've been live the whole time. Oh, it was a great interview last week. Hi, Jeff McKinney.
Oh my God.
I think am I muted?
No.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
You wish you were muted.
All right. Well, everybody
use the promo code SHIP-IT.
Hey, everybody watching live, be happy you're watching live because this episode's going to disappear as soon as we're done recording it.
That beginning's going to get cut out, bro. Cody's like hooking his computer up to his VCR right now. I don't remember hitting the live button. I wonder. YouTube changed some crap this week. Like things look different. I wonder if they auto start streaming on you or something. And everyone's blaming YouTube these days.
I'm so glad I was here for this.
All right, let's see. Woo! It just get hot here.
Yeah, I've never seen Eccles embarrassed before. That's kind of rad. Just don't forget to press the record button on your end, okay, guy?
It's recording. It's
right.
5 minutes in of this beauty. All right. All right. I think I've calmed down from that. There. All right, you guys.
Yeah.
You guys all set?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. This should be interesting. Here we go.
This is Jeff Miller from Grape Expectations. You're listening to the We Like Drinking podcast, where you never drink alone.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
This week on episode 288 of the We Like Drinking podcast, we'll be discussing how you shouldn't drink hand sanitizer, Irish whiskey, and we're talking all things Tullamore Dew with Donna Stewart. So crack open that beer, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking!
Drinking!
All right, listeners, those of you watching live get extra special treats tonight. Everybody else, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here. Let's start out by saying cheers, my podcast drinking friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 288 of your favorite award-winning topical beer and wine education podcast focusing on fun.
Fun.
You know how you have little kids, you put onesies on them?
Yes.
We're all wearing our funsies.
How long you been working on that one, John?
Like the last 15 seconds.
So make sure you never miss another episode of our brand of drinking fun by visiting welikedrinking.com/subscribe. All right. We've got a fun show in store for you. We have a fantastic guest. So let's get right to it and find out who we're drinking with. We're joined by our usual panel members. We have our California Sustainable Wine Growing Ambassador and former wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
Hey, shalom, everybody.
We have our commercial brewer and snake wrangler. He's going to tell us all about that probably. John Leo.
I didn't fall off a mountain or get bit by a rattlesnake this last week, so I'm good.
That's good because you saw a lot of them. And I am your host and certified specialist of wine, Jeff Eccles. Now, our guest this week
is the West Coast ambassador for Tullamore Dew Irish whiskey. Raised in Dublin, she brings strong knowledge and passion for Irish whiskey to her role in educating the Western United States on the beauties of this triple blended whiskey. Please help us welcome Donna Stewart. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I'm so excited to be here.
And we are so excited to have you here. I'm so excited to have this bottle in my hands. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I've got myself a beer and a whiskey. You know, it's been a good day. You know, we had a little bit of sunshine here in California. I was telling Jeff that it's been a rough few days of clouds. And I got to sit in the garden and have a drink before I came on with you guys. So I'm good.
Excellent. Pre-gaming is always a good idea with this show. So let's do the do and find out what everybody's drinking. Let's start with John Ruyak. What's in your glass, brother?
I brought home a growler of lizard tail porter. So, steps up to the plate at 6.6 ABV and 45 IBUs.
Nice. Sounds good. Jeff Solomon.
I don't know. I feel like I woke up this morning and you remember those old ninja movies from the 1980s, like the really corny ones where the dude would just drop down in the middle of a building and just one by one roundhouse kick 30 different people until he wins. Yeah. I feel like I dropped into one of those things politically on Facebook today. It's been really fun. Lots of roundhouse kicks, but I still think I'm winning. So with that political tilt, I've got Russian River Brewing's Pliny for President in front of me. So this is the Pliny the Elder, but it is double dry hopped. With what, John? I don't know. It doesn't say it on the label.
Isn't it hydroxychloroquine?
Probably. How else am I gonna, how else do I use this as a prophylactic, But it's delicious. It's great.
Excellent. Okay. Donna, what you said you've got a whiskey and a beer. What be you drinking?
So I got myself, I was going to get fancy, but I felt like since I'm on with you guys, I know you guys love craft beer. So one of the things we do at Tullamore Dew is we pair Tullamore Dew Original with a good beer, and we call it Dew and a Brew. So today I have kind of a little representation of both my homes. So I've got some Tullamore Dew neat in the glass, and I've got some of my local craft brewery, Santa Monica Brew Works. They're my favorite one by them, which is called the XPA. It's their extra pale ale, and it's my favorite. The brewery's right around the corner. I walk to it. So this is my favorite little pairing.
Nice. Now,
yeah.
I'm kind of envious.
I'm grooving on this. You don't actually pour the beer into the whiskey, do you? You just drink them. You got them next side by side.
So the idea is, right, beer and whiskey are both made with the same three ingredients, right? Grain, water, and yeast.
Yep.
So it only makes sense that they can be drank together. But the thing is, boiler makers have been around since, they were created here in the US. They've been around forever.
Yep. And
the idea is they both have, lots of flavors, and drinking them side by side helps open up the flavors in both.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Yeah, so you can do a sip of the whiskey and a sip of the beer, or a sip of the beer and a sip of the whiskey. Sometimes people shoot the whiskey and drink the beer. Whatever you want to do, there's no rules, but I'm going to sip on both of them as we talk.
Excellent. Well, I'm changing everything I'm doing then, because I've got a little bottle of the Tullamore Dew here that I've got in my little glass here, but I mean, I may as well crack this one.
I heard that.
And I've got, this is really cool, John, Bristol Brewing. I've got this Ivy Wild School Tropical Pale Ale. So this is just something they came out with. All the proceeds of this are going to their servers that may have lost their jobs during the pandemic.
Nice.
So I figured that was a good thing to pick up. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour both of these and I'm gonna go right there with you, Donna, on this thing.
Yeah, a do and a brew. There we go.
Doing a brew. I like it. All the do's tonight. All right. So, folks, if you're interested in following these folks on the social medias, especially the Instagrams, you can follow Donna on Instagram at Tully_D33. That's TULLY_DEE33. And you can follow Tullamore Dew at, you guessed it, Tullamore Dew. All right. We've gotten all that out of the way. So we get to come to one of my favorite bits of the show, a little bit we like to call
wine, beer, spirit, or pop culture reference. This is where I am going to give our crew a term, and they have to figure out, is this a wine term, a beer term, a spirit term, or some sort of pop culture reference. Of course, those of you watching live, as you ought to do, every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific at welikedrinking.com/show. Of course, let us know what you think. The term this week is planquenil. Is planquenil a wine term, a beer term, a spirit term, or some sort of pop culture reference? Eccles, you're just laughing hysterically. I got to go with you first, man.
Can you go ahead and spell it for us? While you're spelling it for us, since you're right there in the show notes, why don't you type it in too?
I can't type and talk at the same time. It's one of those things. I never learned how to write. The planquenil is spelled PLANQUENIL. Planquenil.
Planquenil. There's so many different ways you can go with this. I mean, is it some kind of plantain and NyQuil combination that you shoot? Is it some generic hydrochloroquine? But you know, the thing that drives me on this one is you were over the top in the spirit as you were going through your spiel there. So I am going to say that this is indeed a spirit. I'm going to go for the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to take the bait that you cast out there. And I'm just going to stick with it because I liked it. This is a plantain NyQuil sleep aid that they take in the southern hemisphere, but only, interestingly enough, on Tuesdays.
Interesting.
Do they fry or do they mash the plantains before they fry them, before they mix it with the NyQuil, or what?
Yes.
You know, every region has their own variation of scissor. So you're saying that this is like a southern hemisphere scissor combination. I guess we say it's a spirit because it's a cocktail. Okay. John.
Yes.
Planquenil?
I'm gonna be the party pooper. This is a pop culture reference, and it's some sort of variation on quinine. It's a medication.
It's a medication. You're saying it's a variation on.
It's a medical product.
You're saying it's a medical product, and that's
it's a product used in the practice of medicine in some way. Yes.
Okay, and so I guess we're going to call this a pop culture reference.
Correct.
Donna.
Okay, so I think that it's a reference to wine because you're the wine guy, right? So I'm thinking it can't be Irish whiskey. It can't be something got to do with Ireland because there's a Q in the word. we don't use Q's in the Irish language, so it just doesn't seem Irish to me. So I'm going on that wine thing, right? And I'm thinking it's like when you carefully planned out your year with the vines, and you just everything has gone exactly as you planned, and your exclamation that you say is, Clonquinil.
That is, I mean, it's wrong, but it's amazing.
If this
You
turns
know
out to be something from QAnon, I'm going to be really pissed, Jeff. Sorry.
Well, there's a Q. Okay. So you know, Ruyak was in the right wheelhouse, but I do have to, unfortunately, give Eccles some props for also kind of going that direction. They were both talking about medical things. What was funny was, Eccles did kind of like the backwards thing, like, a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle might not necessarily be a square. Planquinil is a brand name version of hydroxychloroquine, which is used for the treatment and prevention of malaria, lupus, and arthritis. It is not a cure for COVID-19, no matter what the lady in the white coat tells you. Planquinil.
What was that, Donna?
That was the second thing I was going to say.
Right. I was so close. I had to go for the joke. Damn it.
That's why I put you first, buddy.
All right. All right. So this show has gone completely off the rails already, which is totally expected. 15 minutes in, that seems about right. So Donna Stewart, welcome to the show. We can finally get started here, I guess.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So, I know we've had a lot of fun, but we always like to just get started with the basics. So, what can you tell us? What do our listeners need to know about the Tully?
Absolutely. Okay. So there's a few things. I would say 3 key things. So number 1, it's the second biggest Irish whiskey in the world. Okay. Big deal. So it's there's a really, really, really big Irish whiskey that's number 1, but we're very proud to be number 2. It's very fun being number 2. You get to fight your way up there. Second thing that's really interesting about the brand is the name. So a lot of people kind of think it's a mouthful. They don't really get it. Maybe they can't pronounce the dew, or maybe they think that the dew is a reference to that gorgeous, like, wet grass in the morning. But actually, the name comes from a little bit of Irish history. So Tullamore is a town in Ireland. So if this is a map of Ireland, County Offaly is right here in the center, and Tullamore is right in the heart of Ireland. And they built the distillery there in 1829 because there was a canal system, and the canal led over to Dublin, which led to distribution to the rest of the world. Now, at the time, Irish whiskey was the most popular spirit in the world. Nothing else, Irish whiskey. So we were exporting that stuff as quick as we could. So 1829, they built the distillery. And at that time, a young man comes to work there. His name was Daniel Edmund Williams, and he was 14 years old. Now, we don't hire 14-year-olds anymore.
What?
He was. But he came and he was working as a stable hand, or like essentially a laborer. But he was brilliant. He worked his way up to become the GM of the distillery, and he actually ended up buying the distillery off the Daly family, who didn't have a son to pass it on to. Not only that, Daniel brought electricity to the town of Tullamore. He brought the motor car to the town of Tullamore. His name is pasted all over this town. And so we decided to put his name on the bottle, DEW, standing for Daniel Edmund Williams. So really cool story behind the name, but also what's really the most important is what's inside the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And we have 3 types of whiskey that we make in Ireland, okay? So there's grain whiskey, malt whiskey, and pot still whiskey. So grain whiskey is known for its sweetness, kind of like a honey sweetness or like a cereal sweetness. And then malt whiskey is known for its fruity kind of sweetness, that like a very dark kind of fruit. And then pot still whiskey is unique whiskey to Ireland. We only make it in Ireland. And it's known for its spiciness, like a peppery spice, and that lovely oily mouthfeel. Mm. And Tullamore Dew is the original triple blended Irish whiskey. So we have all three types of whiskey that are made in Ireland in our blend. And a lot of the big whiskies that you guys might know from Ireland, like I'm talking the big brand names that are on every shelf, they're only going to be a blend of two types of Irish whiskey. So we stand out because we have all three, and I say that makes us the most Irish whiskey.
Oh, there you go. I like that. And you really can, like, I'm surprised as you're describing the three types and what they bring to each of them, how you really can find those in every sip of it. Like, you do get that oily kind of viscous kind of mouthfeel to it. It's got those fruity notes to it. It's got those honey notes to it, and just a kiss of the spice. It's not overly spiced or anything like that. It is hella dangerously easy drinking Irish whiskey. I gotta say that goes down so sweet. But I'm curious.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to say, Irish whiskey is known to be the friendliest whiskey. So it's really approachable, right? And some of that comes from the fact that it's triple distilled. So distilled 3 times, which makes it really nice and smooth. There is Irish whiskeys that are bold and like heavy, but realistically, like it's kind of known to have that easiness about it. And when you mentioned that you can taste a lot of different flavors, that kind of brings around the third 3 when it comes to Tullamore Dew. So 3 types of whiskey in the bottle, 3 times distilled, but it's also matured in 3 different types of barrels.
Oh,
so yeah,
it's gonna perk up some of our ears.
Yeah,
you got to tell us about the 3 types.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's where we get tons of the flavors. So the first type is kind of, it's kind of a consistency barrel. So it's a traditional refill barrel or an ex-Irish whiskey barrel. So it had Irish whiskey in it before. Maybe it was Tullamore, maybe it was something else. And we kind of use that barrel as our first. The second one is going to be bourbon barrels that we take over from you guys in America. You guys can only use your bourbon barrels once. So we take them off you and we happily use them for you a second, third, fourth time. And what that gives us is those great bourbon flavors, that like really like heavy, rich caramel, gorgeous vanilla, tons of oak. And then our third barrel is sherry butts that we take over from Jerez in Spain.
Nice.
Yeah, stunning. You're getting rich flavors of heavy, dark fruits. We're talking like berries, everything that comes to mind with sherry, that richness, that boldness. And you guys know, because you're into your wines and stuff, it's like we're getting a lot of flavors here with one whiskey. We've got 3 types of whiskey bringing 3 different types of flavors, and 3 types of barrels bringing tons of types of flavors. So you really can't be wrong if you tell me that you taste something in particular at a Tully, because I'll be like, yeah.
Wow. I'm kind of angry that I didn't do the Dew and the Brew tonight. So that's tomorrow. I got a couple weeks of summer left, and it's going to be.
You might have a little bit longer left, John.
So, question is I know it's your calling to go out and educate people about this, but just from a the distiller's point of view, you seem to know a lot about it. So are all 3 grains, all 3 whiskeys going into all 3 different kinds of barrels, so therefore you have 9 different ways to blend it, or is it blended first and then aged and then blended from there again? So what I'm saying is the grain put into each type of barrel, is the malt put into each kind of barrel, and is the rich pot putting into all kinds of barrels? So now you've got 9 different whiskeys to blend, or is it blended first and then aged in the barrels? Do you know? So and it's okay if you don't.
No, I do. This is like one of the first questions that I asked when I got this job, because I was like, how do I wrap my head around this? Like, are they really using 9 barrels to make a bottle of Tullamore Dew Original? And the answer is yes. So
cool.
Each type of whiskey separately goes into each type of barrel. And then there's 9 barrels. And then the master blender takes what he wants. So if you think about it in a complex kind of way, we could be using like 3% of the pot still that sat in a sherry cask, 10% of the pot still that sat in a bourbon cask, and 13% of the pot still that sat in the ex-Irish whiskey cask, and so on. So this stuff is complex.
Wow, that's cool as shit.
Right?
If you tell me that there are 3 different yeast strains as well, my head's gonna explode.
Well, actually,
Damn it!
Not the yeast, but I was going to tell you about the grains. So, for each different type of whiskey, you kind of use a different method, right? So, grain whiskey is usually, for us, it's made with Irish wheat. And then there's a way of distilling it that goes into a column still, and it's continuous distillation, right? So it's made a certain type of way. And then malt whiskey is made with 100% Irish barley, and that's going to be made in one of the copper pot stills. And then pot still whiskey, which is like kind of the one that people can't really wrap their head around, but has a pretty cool story that goes behind it. So I feel like I should tell you guys.
Yeah.
So in, old Ireland, when Irish whiskey was one of the biggest exports, we were, of course, under English rule, and they wanted to tax us on whatever they could. So one of the main things that they taxed us on was Irish whiskey, and not just the end result whiskey. What they wanted to tax us on was the malt that we were using. So at the time, people would use malt to make whiskey. They'd malt their barley or malt their grain and make whiskey. But the Irish people were like trying to evade those taxes. So we said, well, what would happen if we put in grains that are not malted? We avoid the taxes in that proportion of the whiskey and see what happens and see if we still can get something that's drinkable. And what they ended up coming up with, they put, 50% malted barley and 50% unmalted barley or grain. And they ended up with our signature style of whiskey, pot still whiskey, which is only made in Ireland, came about because of taxes, and is made in a copper pot still. Now, there's other terms, like you hear the term pot still, right? Because you hear the copper pot still, or there's a pot still that's bourbon uses. But Irish pot still whiskey is unique to Ireland, and it's that gorgeous, spicy, oily mouthfeel. It's got a little bit of heat, and it's definitely the old style of Irish whiskey because we wanted to get away from the tax man, because who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
I was gonna say that's a very we're all sitting here like that sounds like a very American thing to do.
That's where we get on.
Well, just so you don't feel too bad. I mean, the English government taxed all the brewers in England the same way, depending on how much malt they put in their beer. So 90 shilling, 50 shilling, 80 shilling beer was based on the grain bill for that particular, and that was the tax. So that's what they named those
very interesting.
Yeah.
So you kind of answered my question much earlier, just talking about the history of Tullamore Dew, but I've got jokes and I've got to get them out. So how often do people annoy you with some sort of Mountain Dew joke? How often does that happen?
Honestly, it doesn't happen that often, but there's a lot of people who drink Mountain Dew with Tullamore Dew.
Do you recommend it?
To be honest, I don't know if I've ever had Mountain Dew.
Good for
That's
you.
a good thing. Yeah.
I know that's kind of a wild
thing. You have to start going to automobile races.
So Donna, I hear you bringing up the number 3 a lot. Does Tullamore Dew ever consider scaling back their sales to drop down to the 3rd most popular Irish whiskey in the world, or no, they're going to stay happy at number 2?
Look, 3 is my lucky number, but I think I have enough ways to talk about the number 3 without being the number 3 Irish whiskey. I've got more than 3 bottles on the shelf, we can keep going, but it is kind of our magic number, so if you kind of want to remember something about Tully, because that's kind of, when you do want to share whiskey with someone, you want to be able to tell them a little bit about it. There's so many types of whiskey, and you want to tell them something special. If you remember the number 3 when you think of Tully, you'll be able to tell them that 3 types of whiskey, 3 times distilled, and 3 different types of barrels, which I think is pretty cool.
Awesome.
Do you get sorry, Eccles, I cut you off here.
Go ahead, Jeff.
But do you get an opportunity to taste those 3 whiskeys individually, or has there ever been an opportunity for the general public to just get their hands on that, just to see, knowing that the true Tullamore Dew is going to have those 3 blended in it, but I'm wondering if there's like interest behind like trying those different components separately.
Yeah, definitely. I think that there's a lot of value to it, because you can, once you taste the grain by itself, you then understand what like grain brings to it and what malt brings to it. So when you go to the distillery, we have like a experience where you can sit and taste each of the 3 spirits, but they're not, it's the spirits before they go into the barrels, right? So you're tasting a grain spirit. And grain spirit is quite an interesting thing to taste, because it's the base. It's before it's ever touched wood. And if you have a grain spirit that has a lot of flavor and it's like, you know, it's tolerable, like, you know, it's grain alcohols, it's kind of rough. But if it's tolerable and it tastes nice, that kind of tells you like, this is the base. This is like before we sit it in barrels for more than 3 years, you know. This is like, and it gives you all those flavors. So you can do that at the distillery, but we don't sell like Tullamore grain, Tullamore, you know, pot still. Although we do have 2 SKUs that are single malts. Now, it's not the same malt that goes into Tullamore Dew Original, but we have single malts because Irish invented whiskey. The Irish invented whiskey, right? I don't care what the Scottish say. I don't know what Scottish people you had on this podcast recently, but they're liars. So the Irish invented whiskey. So basically our distiller was like, well, we can make a single malt that is up there with some of the best scotches in the world. And they did. So they made our 18-year single malt and our 14-year single malt. And our 18-year actually has won some awards for best whiskey in the world. So there is chances to try single malts and single grains and stuff like that with Tully, but maybe the base spirits, you got to go all the way to Tullamore to do it.
Sounds like, let's do it, guys.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So I am drinking the green label. I am drinking the original. You mentioned the 18-year, you mentioned the 14-year. It looks like you have a whole lot of other ones sitting there behind you. So can you run us through the portfolio there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll show you some of the bottles so that we can kind of do it properly. So this one is quite interesting. This is the Tullamore Dew cider cask finish. So we've been making cider in Ireland as long as we've been making whiskey, which people kind of find surprising. But let me tell you this, if you go to Ireland on vacation or whatever, every man and woman is drinking cider. Mm-hmm. Like, they love cider in Ireland. So we have great apple orchards. We've got great ciders that we're really proud of. So what they wanted to do was kind of pay tribute to that. So we took cider barrels from a local cider brewery, and we finished Tullamore Dew Original in those barrels for 3 to 6 months. So it's Tullamore made and matured as usual, and then it sits in a 4th barrel just for a few months. And this is actually the only Irish whiskey that's finished in cider barrels, because they're very difficult to work with. You know, the apples really, like, the citrus really eats the wood and stuff.
Gotcha.
But this is so bright. It's like biting into an apple. It's literally, yeah, like, this is dangerous. If you have someone who you know who has never tasted whiskey before in their life, and they're like kind of afraid because they think it might be harsh or whatever, this is the one. So love it.
And that's kind of a coppery kind of color, is that right?
Yeah, so it's like a warm, it's a little bit of a richer color, and it's a red label.
Okay.
And it's a seasonal whiskey, but you can probably get it year round here, but we only make it seasonally in Ireland. And for me, like, you know, apples and cider reminds me of summer, because I'm from Ireland, and that would be what we drink in the sunshine. But for you guys, apples remind you of fall.
Right.
Yeah. It's
right?
a harvesty thing over here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. So this gives me like Thanksgiving vibes. I'm like, What kind of like spiced drink can we come up with this cider cask?
Yes. Add that to Thanksgiving this year. It'll make things go super smooth.
Oh, you know what you have to have this Thanksgiving? That in a hot toddy.
Yes. And some palindrome quin.
Oh yeah. Some plan quinil.
To fight off the virus.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're meeting up with a bunch of people and no masks, you don't need masks. We got plan quinil.
Donna, are you going to claim that the Irish invented cider as well? Or just
I'm going to claim it.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right. What's next?
Okay, so the next one is really fun. This is our Tullamore Dew XO, or our Tullamore Dew extra old rum barrel finish. So I like to say XO, right? It's a bit more like rings off the tongue. This one's pretty cool. So like when we're going back to the history now, when England had rule over Ireland, they sent a lot of our Irish prisoners all over the world to work as slaves.
Yep. And
one of the places that they sent Irish people was to the Caribbean. So not many people know this, but Irish slaves worked alongside the other slaves in the Caribbean. And of course, families blended together. Irish people continued to follow over. And to this day, 25% of Jamaicans claim Irish ancestry.
Really?
We've got like a ton of Irish last names in the Caribbean that might have like been like just changed a little bit. Lots and lots of history there. If you look up a video on YouTube about the island of Montserrat, it's called the Emerald Isle of the Caribbean. And it's where this like certain group of people who like claim Irish ancestry live. They might have like green eyes or freckles, maybe a little bit fairer skin. And they've got Irish accents that are like Caribbean accents. So it's like,
oh, wow.
It's the most bizarre and like hilarious thing you've ever seen, but like I fully believe it and I cannot wait to go there. So they have Irish bars, they drink Guinness, they drink Irish whiskey, they sing Irish rebel songs. So what we wanted to do was pay another tribute to that. So we took over extra old rum barrels from Guyana in the Caribbean, and we took our original liquid, really similar story to the cider cask, original liquid, made and matured as usual, and then finished for 3 to 4 months in an extra old rum barrel.
Wow.
So I say it's like an Irish whiskey with a rum nuance.
Nice. Can we just say that's just cruel to send? Turning somebody to a slave is bad enough, but to send Irish to the Caribbean, I mean, come on. That much sun on that Irish skin, that's extra mean.
Oh, they were burnt to bits.
All right. Now what do we got? So then we got the 14-year, the 18-year, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I could keep going for days. I ran out of 12-year-old, which should be next because I drank with my friends at the weekend. But the 12-year-old is delicious. It's a triple blended Irish whiskey. It's finished in 3 different types of barrels, but it has a higher proportion of pot still, and it sits for longer in the sherry casks. And for us, when it says 12 years on the bottle, that means that the youngest liquid in the bottle is 12 years old. So there's anything up to 18 years worth of whiskey in our 12-year-old.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's very affordable, very attainable. It's in like all your major liquor stores. Mm-hmm. And it's probably like the most positively reviewed Tully that I ever come across. I've never had anybody ever tell me that they don't like it.
I don't know. I am a little bit concerned that you're telling me, and I'm a mandated reporter, you lost your 12-year-old and they're full of 18-year-old whiskey. Like, that's not good.
Family Services is going to knock on your door any second now.
I know.
I'm gonna drive on down the 152 to the 5 to the 405. I'm gonna get off at Santa Monica. I'm going to wear a mask, and I am going to write you. CCS. You're screwed.
One of my coworkers, she was a mixologist, and she's so funny. She made a cocktail for one of her bars in San Diego, and it was basically an old-fashioned, but made with 12-year-old. and she named it "You Are Old Fashioned for a 12-year-old."
All right. I have monopolized this entire interview. So, John or Jeff? Jeff, what do you got?
I have an empty page right here.
Oh.
I'm riffing and I'm having a great time.
John, do you have any
away.
big question?
So, how long have you been with them now, Donna?
So it's nearly 2 years. I started September of 2019. All right, 2018.
So I had just wanted to like dial back and heard if you had heard any stories about maybe the concern they had with opening the new distillery and working with that all that new equipment, and how they were going to preserve the end product, and with all those things. I mean, all new equipment acts completely differently than what you're used to, or wherever it was produced before. So
yeah, so that kind of here I am. I'll keep coming back to you with the history, but when I said earlier that Irish whiskey was once the most popular spirit in the world, it started to decline, kind of like maybe like the 1930s. It started to decline, maybe a little bit earlier than that, and it was for a few different reasons. One reason was prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
You guys stopped drinking, and you were our biggest market. So that was a bit of a rager for the Irish. The second thing was we got our independence from England. Yay! Which is like, happy days, except it started a trade war and it cut off a lot of our distribution channels. So it was very difficult for us to get our product around, and it was much easier for Scotch to get out there. And then the third thing was us Irish, it's all about the three. The third thing was that there was this new piece of technology made for making Irish whiskey, and it was said to make it faster and better quality. And it was called the coffee still. And it was named after a man called Aeneas Coffey, who was an Irishman, came up with this amazing invention. But the thing was, he had been a taxman for many years, and he had been taxing people on whiskey for many, many years. So when he came out with his invention, the Irish said, "You can get lost. We're not using it. Go elsewhere." And so he did, and he brought it to Scotland, and the Scottish took it on because it was fantastic, and they made their spirits quicker, and it was higher quality. So they really got kind of that leg up over us, and Scotch started to take off, and Irish whiskey started to decline at a really fast rate. So this is a long-winded answer to your question, but what ended up happening was a lot of the Irish distilleries had to close. And in order to keep these brands that have been around for so long alive, everybody banded together and they called themselves Irish distillers. And Irish whiskey was being distilled out of three main distilleries. So we're buying our grain from one place, malt from another. Tullamore Dew still kind of has its signature triple blend. It still has its signature taste and its branding, but it's all being coming out of one place, and there's really limited stocks. So we're lucky enough that in 2005, William Grant & Sons, some of the best Scotch distillers in the world, bought Tullamore Dew and invested $150 million into rebuilding the distillery in its hometown of Tullamore. And like you said, top-notch equipment. This is not what you might envision as like a little charming Irish distillery. It is definitely state-of-the-art, jaw-dropping, like stunning equipment and stunning buildings. It's built on acres and acres of land. We have grain whiskey being made there, malt whiskey being made there, pot still whiskey being made there. We mature on site. We grow the grain on site. We bottle on site. We just hired our own cooper to run the cooperage on site. Yeah, this stuff is like insane. Like it is a massive operation. And like you said, there's always a challenge in making sure that the whiskey is going to be consistent and it's going to have that flavor that everybody knows and loves it for. And that comes from the master distillers that we have. Like, these people are so talented that they make sure that everything is being made the right way, it's being matured the right way. And at this point, we actually have some of the liquid in the bottle is the liquid that was made and matured at the new distillery. And apparently, I've been told, and I think it's from a good source, it's from the guy at the distillery, Kevin, that by next year, all 3 liquids in the bottle will be made and matured on site. And that's for our original bottle, because that's our youngest whiskey, right? So like, it will be a long time before our 12-year-old or our 15-year-old is. But yeah, it's a challenge, but it's one that like I'm so proud of. You guys have to come to Ireland and check out Tullamore. It's a state-of-the-art distillery, like something you've never seen.
The pictures on the website are just jaw-dropping. I'm just like,
That's what? That's awesome. And I just want to throw this out here, just like a cold plea. William Grant and Son, can you guys just hook me up with a better internet connection? That'd be awesome.
That's one thing that they're not very skilled at. They're all about the old school stuff, the old school crafts, and we're all about partying and drinking. So I don't know if we can help you with that.
I did have, one last question for this round. We'll see if I get another one. Did hobbits invent that cocktail, the Elevensies?
Why do you ask?
Because hobbits, Elevensies, that's like after second breakfast.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know stuff about hobbits. For me, it's leprechauns. They're my people.
Hell, John. Way to throw a Lord of the Rings reference in the middle of a Tullamore Dew interview.
No one reads that stuff. Come on, John.
Donna, so I'm curious. You grew up. You spent time in all over the world. I mean, you were born in Boston, I believe, right? You grew up in Dublin. You spent time in Nashville. You spent time in Boston, Chicago, out in California. You've been all over the place. A lot of time talking about Tullamore Dew. What is one thing you wish Americans in general understood better about Irish whiskey?
Whew. I think, now this is not, I don't get angry at this or anything, but one thing that I would love if they would understand a little bit better is that you don't always have to shoot it.
Why did I know that was coming? Everybody, you're doing yourselves a disservice, and I'm sending this like worldwide, because I've been all over the world. I've been to the United States. I've been to Mexico. Worldwide, you don't have to shoot every single distilled spirit.
No,
I've been all over the place. I went to Puerto Rico once. You don't have to take shots.
No, you really don't. And
well, you can if you want.
Yeah.
Well, and this is
should, right? I mean, fireball's of no use other than possibly shooting, and even then, it's really not much use to it. But yeah, something like
I drink the Flamin' Dr. Pepper slow and low.
Well, it's interesting for me because in saying that, I came here I had just moved over, and let me tell you, the stuff that we drank in Ireland when I was 20 was like, ugh, I have nightmares about it sometimes. And I had never drank Irish whiskey. Like, that's just not really something a young person is shooting and partying doing in Ireland, even though that's what they do here. So I came over and I started working at a local bar in Santa Monica. And the first thing that I was greeted with from one of the bartenders was a big shot of Irish whiskey. And I'm not lying when I say a big shot, because you guys do big shots, right? And I go, no, I don't drink that. And they go, yes, you do. You're Irish. And I said, no, I don't. I can't. And they said, drink it. And so I drank it. And to be honest, that was my introduction to Irish whiskey. That they wouldn't give me other shots. It was like, well, Donna's Irish, so Irish whiskey for her, and then what everybody else wants. So that was kind of how I got introduced to it, and I've had many, many, many good party nights shooting Irish whiskey. But I think as time went on and as I learned a little bit more, I've been able to really learn how to appreciate it. Now, don't get me wrong, you guys still might catch me out and you'll catch me doing shots of Tully, and that's fine. But if there was something that I wanted people to understand, is probably that there's a lot of time and process that goes into it, and there's a lot of great flavors that you can get out of it if you sit there and sip it too.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's just like wine. It's just like beer. It's just like whiskey. Put it in a wide mouth glass and get your nose in the glass while you're drinking it. Shots don't do that.
No, appreciate the good stuff. Shoot the shitty stuff. That's generally kind of what you should do if you're going to do shots.
Well, we like to party, so like, look, if you want to do shots, I'm down. You don't always have to, And there's fun ways to drink. You can put it in cocktails too. You can play around with it. We can have it with a do and a brew. Like, there's many ways to enjoy Irish whiskey. So
I'm definitely going to be having this in an old fashioned. I can guarantee you that.
So thinking about ways to enjoy Irish whiskey, I live in Northern California, so I have my own prejudices about LA, but I have had, the opportunity to go to LA quite a bit recently. And first of all, beautiful city. Second of all, the food down there is amazing, especially if you're stuck in a hotel and you got a DoorDash. There's no better place to be than Los Angeles, Santa Monica. And so I just have to ask, what's your classic Tullamore Dew food pairing?
Oh, damn, that is so hard because I've had so many different types of food with Tullamore Dew. But you know what? I think if I was going to just we could sit and talk about different types of food and different types of Tullies and why they pair and why they match. But to be honest, I think Tully is approachable. It's the kind of drink that you can be sitting at a bar, chatting to someone beside you, having a drink. You can be sitting watching the game. You can be sitting with a good friend, having a good conversation. So I would say Tullamore Dew goes with a nice, comfortable, solid meal, like maybe a good burger and fries, or like a real nice pie or something like that. It can go in loads of things, but for me, that's what I would sit there and enjoy it with. It's kind of like when I doing a brew, I want a nice, cold, refreshing beer, maybe something that has a bit of flavor, or I might even just have it with a nice Pilsner. So same, I'm thinking a Tully, a beer, and a burger.
Nice.
I was thinking praline ice cream, actually.
Mm-hmm. Don't get me started on dessert.
What's that?
I said, don't get me started on dessert.
From the get-go, I've been so jealous this whole time. You guys are just talking about all these different flavor profiles. From the get-go, I don't know why, but salivary glands are kicking, and I just want some fried chicken right now, so bad. Just thinking about whiskey and fried chicken, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, this is really good with fried chicken.
That's the thing. It's approachable and it's versatile. So if you want to have it with your fancy steak dinner, if you want to have it with your piece of chocolate cake, we can play around with it here. But there's nothing that I would lock Tully into. I'd be now if you ask me at the 12 year, I think that one is a dessert whiskey. It is for after dinner. It's for, it's those rich flavors. Like I said, it sits in the sherry and it's got extra pots and it's spicy and it's heavy and it's bold. So that for me is the one that I want to have with a delicious, rich dessert. But Tully Original, get your fried chicken, get your burger, get your steak, whatever you want, Tully goes with it.
Awesome.
And literally ask a 12-year-old what they'd like to eat. They're going to say dessert.
Yeah. Literally.
All right, guys, one last question before we got to move on. John.
No, I think I'm good.
Jeff.
Yeah, I got nothing. This is great.
Donner, is there anything we may have missed that we should ask you?
I I mean, I'm willing to tell you guys whatever you want. Oh, actually, I think there's one thing because you're after mentioning, Jeff, that you're from up north. Where do you live?
I'm in.
Oh,
That Jeff.
yeah, you're not Eccles. You're not a northern situation. Gilroy, so I'm close to San Jose.
Oh, I love San Jose. So you might have heard of the Buena Vista in San Francisco.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe the one thing that's really special about Tully that we haven't mentioned is that it is the choice whiskey for an Irish coffee. So an Irish coffee is probably one of the most famous classic Irish whiskey cocktails in the world. And there's a little kind of story that goes along with why we are the choice Irish whiskey. So in 1942, transatlantic flights used to stop in Ireland to refuel before they went on to America. And everybody would kind of get off the plane. This is like when planes landed on the water, right? So everybody gets off the plane, they go into the airport, have a sandwich or whatever. But one particular night in 1942, it was really stormy and they knew that the flight wasn't going to take off till the morning. So everybody's freezing, sitting in the airport, it's so cold. And the chef, Joe Sheridan, decides to make them what he calls an coffee. So he puts Irish whiskey, sugar, coffee, and heavy cream, sits the cream on the top perfectly, and he serves it to them all. And what soon happens is everybody starts talking about this airport. Now, it's not Dublin Airport. It's the Foynes Airport, which is like, doesn't even exist anymore. It's kind of like where Shannon Airport is. It's like that little tiny airport in like kind of the back arse of Ireland, right? And people are talking word of mouth. It's the 1940s. And one man hears about it. He's a famous travel writer. His name is Stan Delaplane. Hears about this Irish coffee and he goes, how am I going to make it? So he goes to his local bar, sits with the bartender in San Francisco, the Buena Vista, and he goes, let's figure out how to make it. I heard it's this, I heard it's that. Let's get the cream to sit. They can't figure it out. So the two of them just jump on a plane and they go to the Foynes Airport in Ireland. And they sit down with Joe Sheridan and he shows them the exact recipe of how to make it. They fly back and they introduce the Irish coffee to the world in San Francisco. And what they made was the most famous Irish coffee in the world, the most drank Irish coffee in the world. The Buena Vista pumps out like 2,000 Irish coffees a day. I think like last Paddy's Day, not just the one just gone, the one before, they did like 25,000 Irish coffees in the day.
Wow.
And it is the most delicious Irish coffee you've ever had. And they only make it with Tullamore Dew because Tully has all three types of Irish whiskey. So it brings all three flavors to the Irish coffee and therefore is the most famous Irish coffee in the world. So if there was anything that I needed to tell you guys, that was it. And you have to now go to the Buena Vista and tell me what you think.
I've been to the Buena Vista, but it was, gee whiz, it was like 35 years ago. I could swear they put melted butter in it too.
It tastes very rich, but I'm telling you, they don't put melted butter. It's 2 parts Irish whiskey, 3 parts coffee, 2 sugar cubes, and then they top it with lightly whipped heavy cream. So you don't whip it till it's like frothy and heavy and like, that you could squirt it. It's like still kind of liquidized, but just heavy enough to like sit on the top of the
maybe that's what it is. And it was 35 years ago and a couple 100 million brain cells ago.
Yeah, and I actually ordered one there once, but I heard they had 2 sugar cubes and I asked for 0 and they kicked me out. I've been 86 from the Buena Vista because of my stance on big sugar.
Oh my God, you are so California.
All right, Donna, that was fantastic. Thank you for sitting down for the interview portion of our show. I'm looking at the time. We're approaching an hour, but I think we got time.
Come on, we gotta do it.
We gotta hit this hard hitting booze news. We discuss interesting, noteworthy, or we're getting back to the really stupid things. So what is this on? This is Banner Health Poison Center director says don't drink hand sanitizer. I mean, I really don't even need to go into the article. For God's sake, the title says it all. Apparently, kids these days They're doing shots of the hand sanitizer, and that's not good. You know, the alcohol that's in there, it doesn't necessarily have to be ethanol. It could be, you know, wood alcohol. You know, so kids.
Make sure they're kids.
Yeah, who knows at this point? Even even pairing it with some Tullamore Dew, it's just not a good idea. So I don't, guys. What are you thinking on this? Is this something that people really need to have to come out and say?
Dude, people were eating in the last 2 years. We've had people eating Tide Pods.
Yeah, I mean that's an excellent point. We've had.
I mean, we. Here's the thing. As Americans, what happens when you buy something and you have to put it together? Do you read the instructions?
Oh,
I mean,
no.
I do.
I know.
I do.
No. Fuck no. I'm an American. I don't read the instructions. I just wing it.
So you see alcohol on the label and you just drink it.
And they don't.
No. Yeah, but because of that, we do need to be yelled at about things we shouldn't do.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't drink the hand sanitizer unless it's colored like a Tide Pod. Never mind. No, I didn't say that.
So here's what I find interesting. And obviously, as a rule of thumb, don't drink hand sanitizer. However, it's interesting that we now have a lot of, especially like the booze industry has been hit really hard, especially if you were doing a lot of like en premise sales, you know, and you're not having as many people come in. You know, people have been very innovative. A lot of booze places have been producing their own hand sanitizer because they make alcohol anyways. What I thought was interesting was there was a local winery of ours that early on during lockdown, along with your order, they would also give you a small bottle of their own homemade hand sanitizer. And they were given a cease and desist letter, not because it couldn't be used to sanitize, but because they hadn't gone through the full process of, like, a big part of it is you have to put like an agent inside of the hand sanitizer to make it taste gross. So people aren't inclined to drink it. At least that's what. Yeah.
My Pinot hand sanitizer has really got that pepper.
So that's why, like, when I'm squirting that Target hand sanitizer right before I go eat some French fries, all of a sudden I go, "Ugh, what's that flavor at the end?" Like, you know, because I'm a finger licker when I eat French fries.
That's insane. I didn't know that they would put something nasty in there, but it does make a lot of sense for those sanitizer drinkers.
Yeah.
Makes me think of that stuff I used to put on my nails to try to stop biting. Rotten.
I do have to read one quote from this article, which quote, "We know there's a lot of concern about COVID-19. We understand that, but they're using cleaning products inappropriately, like gargling or drinking these products, thinking that it'll stop them from getting infected. But that's not true."
Yeah.
And
there's one way to get light inside of your body, and it involves all the stuff inside of your body leaving your body. So don't do that.
So yeah, I got some hand sanitizer recently, you know, and I squirt on my hands, and you know, when you do that, you always got to just see how it smells. And mine smells like tequila, but I'm not gonna drink it. And you shouldn't either.
I've got some hand sanitizer I bought at Smith's, and it's this nasty combination of chocolate and coconut. I was like, what is that? I'm like, oh, it's awful.
All right.
It does not smell like a Mounds candy bar.
Okay, totally random. Just because Eccles, you talked about like smelling your hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
And kind of going back to Donna was talking about just like weird, like nasty shots and stuff like that. when I turned 21, one of the bars that I walked into, you know, what you do. Hey, kids that listen to the show, when you turn 21, you go to the bars with an older friend, and the older friend makes a big deal and points to the bartender. It's this guy's 21st birthday, and that's when they bring out like the weird shit.
Yeah.
I had something called a Scuba Diver, which is some sort of high alcohol liqueur, licorice notes. That's what I remember as a 21-year-old. That is lit on fire in a tall glass, regular shot, tall glass. Put your hands over the top to put the fire out. Stick a straw through your fingers and inhale the alcohol vapors.
Did you feel it?
Did I feel it? I didn't feel anything that night.
Don't light a match around Jeff Sullivan.
Yeah, I'm still carrying it.
That's so funny, right? It reminds me of I used to work at this bar in LA before I got this job, and it was called Irish Times. And it was really weird when I got there. Their signature drink is called a Hellfire, and everybody orders Hellfires who goes there, like everybody, right? So I was like, what's a Hellfire? It's like one of the first things I have to learn how to make. So it's cinnamon schnapps, you know, like in a shot glass to here, topped with 151. And then you have a glass beside it that has some 7-Up and cranberry juice. And you light the shot on fire. So now it's on fire. And then I got to drop it in and pass it to you. And then you got to neck it down.
That sounds delicious.
Cinnamon 151, 7-Up, and cranberry.
Yeah. People do crazy things.
That's like a Dante's Inferno Shirley Temple.
What's that?
What's that, John?
What's that, John?
Shirley Temple is like what? That's ginger ale with a maraschino cherry in it.
Yeah, but
what makes it a Dante's Inferno?
Did you just invent a drink, John?
I did.
Oh, gee, come on. We're talking about real stuff here. We're talking about Goldschlager with little pieces of real gold inside of it.
I thought you were going to say it.
The thing gets stuck in your teeth. And then you floss, and you take it to the jeweler.
Bro, it cuts your throat on the way down and you get like more drunk.
That's what I was thinking. We used to drink Goldschlager, Sambuca, Jaeger bombs.
Yes. All right. Obviously,
I'm about to vomit.
Obviously, if everybody at the table is talking about Jaeger bombs and Goldschlager, it must be
last call.
Last call.
Last call. Apparently, it's time to get your last shots before we throw you out. So you know what we do here, folks. We're looking for a little bit of help from you. Jeff Solomon, if folks want to follow us on the social media platforms, how can they do so?
Hey, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Just look for We Like Drinking. We're on Twitter as We Like Drinking 1. That's the numeral 1 for whatever reason. But really, the place where we like to hang out and the way we like to interact with our beautiful community is through our private Facebook group known as The Tavern. So you're on Facebook all day anyways, sharing misinformation. Here's some real information. Just look for the We Like Drinking Tavern, or if that's too difficult for you, welikedrinking.com/tavern. Come hang out.
Absolutely. Donna Stewart, where can the listeners find you and Tullamore Dew on the social platforms?
Yep, they can find me on Instagram at Tully, TULLY _DEE33. And I'm on there just having fun and being myself and drinking lots of Tully. And then you can find Tullamore Dew on Instagram at Tullamore Dew US, or you can find Tullamore Dew online with lots of recipes for cocktails and more information about our different SKUs on tullamoredew.com.
Awesome. Search up the show on Apple Podcast and leave us a big fat 5-star review. We got another one this week, but they didn't leave any words. We like the words. So if you enjoyed this episode in particular, share it with a friend. John Ruyak, if the folks have done all that and they just still got some of that government money burning a hole in the pocket, where can they find a way to send it to us?
Well, just a quick note on the 5-star review.
Okay.
When you think about it, the Milky Way has 100 billion stars.
Yes.
So 5 stars isn't that much.
Not many.
Right? So it shouldn't be that hard to give us just all 5 stars.
If you hate our show, give us 5 stars.
Exactly. I mean, it's out of 100 billion, right?
I honestly thought you were going to say, hey, I was the one that gave us a 5-star review this week. I thought you were going to say that you finally.
I reviewed our show way back in the day. I gave it 4.25.
So John, again, if they've given us 100 billion stars, they've followed us on all the social medias. They've followed Tullamore Dew. They've drank an Irish whiskey. How can they still want to do more? How can they become let's call them an Uber supporter of the show?
Okay, so visit the welikedrinking.com/pledge site. And look, we went to go look at a third tap room today, right? And the real estate agent opened up the back door, and right there at the back door was a quarter.
Yeah.
So all you got to do is look at 4 different rental spaces, open the back door and find a quarter. That's $1. You can donate just $1 a month if you visit 4 different places to think you're going to open a tap room. And it's that simple.
Man,
it's not that much.
Way to aim high, John. You can also get show notes for this episode with all the extra stories or mentions we had at welikedrinking.com/episodes. All right, folks, we knew it was going to be a lot of fun, and it was, but we've reached the time of the show where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
Well, I try not to go long in this. I was in Sycamore Canyon near the Mexican border. I was looking for rattlesnakes. I saw a group of people looking for birds, and they were pointing out some flycatchers. And I said, hey, guys, and they were from New Zealand or Australia or something like that, but they lived here in the States. They're emigres. So, they were traveling in the COVID world. Anyway, I said, dudes, I've got this bird that keeps building a nest on the ledge of my house. And he's like, I described it to him. He goes, that's a Say's Phoebe. I'm like, okay, that's great. I said, do they nest more than once? He said, yep, they nest 2 or 3 times in the summer. I'm like, that's just great. Because last year when they did that, I tried to pick up that nest and put it in the trash. And you know what birds have on them? Mites. And mites itch. But they're species specific and they don't stay on your skin. But you'll itch and itch and itch until you use hand sanitizer.
Jeff Elman.
I'm not what. Look, Donna does a great job on the Instagrams promoting the Tullamore Dew. I'm not one to tell her how to do her job, but I'm just throwing this out here. There could be another handle. Tullamore don't. And all it is one picture, one meme. Tullamore don't drink the hand sanitizer.
Donna Stewart, any final thoughts before we let you get out of here?
Yes, and I have to pour myself a quick refill to do it.
Shit, I better.
So I just got back from Ireland.
Okay.
Did a little trip home.
Yep.
And
we're doing shots, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. Us Irish never can let the conversation end without a wee toast. So first of all, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Go
okay.
for it.
Fuck no.
Okay. Just checking because I don't want you to bleep me. Okay.
No, never.
So I was gonna do a little toast to finish. So, if Tully was the ocean and I was a duck, I'd swim my way down and I would drink my way up. But Tully ain't the ocean and I'm not a duck. So raise up your glasses. Let's drink the fuck up. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Damn, Tully is a smooth shot too. All right, Donna, holy crap. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a lot of fun. You are a fantastic ambassador for Tullamore Dew, and it was a pleasure to have you on the show. So thank you so much for taking the time out to join us.
Oh, thank you guys so much for having me. This is so fun. It feels like I'm really at like a happy hour.
That's what we go for. And with that, I'll say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast,
where you'll never drink alone.
I tried to hit that -7.
I still can't go with the right arm still. Still got to go.
Oh,
with-
dude.
Really?
Yeah. All right, let's get to the YouTubers and let me get off of this. It looks like oh good. Cody has sent